He's got some hot spots around the world to deal with beyond what he's going to be discussing in Asia. Look no further than the Caribbean, where we just knocked out another boat.
Right, getting confirmation on this. We're still awaiting some perhaps further details, but this really does continue what we've seen from the administration when it comes to targeting these alleged shipments of narcotics from Venezuela. I was pretty struck that we actually heard from the Brazilian president Lula, who says that he wants to meet with President Trump. They're both set to be in Asia this week, and that he's willing to talk about Venezuela.
Yeah. Well, this one was just announced, or I guess confirmed by Secretary Pete Hegseth a short time ago, the first night strike that we've seen against a vessel. He says at the direction of the president, Department of War carried out a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by Tren de Aragua, a designated terrorist organization. Now, as we have heard from the president, they're promising more where this came from. And to that end, with our questions about what exactly is happening off the coast of Venezuela, where a naval flotilla has been assembled for some time now, we just heard from Sean Parnell at the Pentagon that the Jerry Ford Carrier Strike Group is now on its way. This is straight from the statement. The Secretary of War has directed the Jerry R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and Embarked Carrier Air Wing to the U.S. Supreme Command Area of Responsibility, referring to the enhanced U.S. force presence in the U.S. Southcom, bolstering our capacity to detect, monitor, disrupt illicit actors, knowing as well that there was a covert CIA operation on the ground in Venezuela that the president himself confirmed.
Right, there's a lot that we could dig into, and just for the statistic that I was trying to find before, this latest action marks the 10th strike since September 1st against a vessel allegedly ferrying drugs and brings the death toll to 43.
Let's bring in our panel for more on this. Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano are with us here on the Friday edition of Balance of Power, both Bloomberg Politics contributor. Rick is our Republican strategist and partner at Stone Court Capital, and Jeannie is Democracy Visiting Fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center. Jeannie, considering what the president said yesterday, that at some point, once all of these options on the water are exhausted, he calls them water drugs and sea drugs, he said the land is going to be next. Quote, I think we are going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country, okay? We're going to kill them, he said. They are going to be like dead, unquote. What's the point of the Carrier Strike Group, and how far is this going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty stark reminder when the president was asked yesterday, to your point, about whether he needed to go to Congress to get approval for a declaration of war in Latin America. He said probably not. But don't be surprised if we move this from the water to the land. And that, to your point, in doing so, they would kill many people. But, you know, you look at, and already to Tyler's point, 10 strikes and over 40 people killed. The problem is something that Senator Rand Paul and many others have talked about. We don't know who is on those boats, nor is Congress apparently getting information. And we don't in the United States, because we are a democracy, abide by strike first and think about it later. We have the Coast Guard go in, we have them get on those boats, we have them deal with who is ever on there, because we too make mistakes. And so all of this is a violation of U.S. law, international law, and the president, from his comments yesterday, seems not at all concerned about what is happening there on the water and promising more on the land.
Well, Rick, what's your take here, and what's been your assessment of how the administration has been telegraphing these strikes and the questions that, as Jeannie is phrasing, still remain?
Yeah, look, it's been a very provocative series of actions by this administration toward the Venezuela regime and the drug cartels resident in it. But I would remind everybody, too, repeated opposition groups inside Venezuela have referred to the Maduro regime as a narco-trafficking regime, that they are not administering justice and running a government. They're running a criminal organization bent on lining their pockets with drug profits. And so this is not the first time we've dealt with Maduro as an individual who is basically created a drug cartel out of a government. Now, that being said, also moving the Carrier Strike Group into the region is, again, an even more provocative measure, because these are seen as some of our most lethal capacity that we have and a incredible show of force that we would do typically in a shooting war in the Middle East, not necessarily something in our own hemisphere. And so clearly the message the administration is sending to the Maduro regime is we are not going to put up with any other misbehavior on your part. And it goes well beyond these seaborne drug runners who have been doing this. And look, I have confidence in our intelligence community and in our military and in our ability to gain information from various sources that the administration is likely confident of the people who are being attacked as violating various laws governing our resistance to drug cartels and their pernicious effects, not only on our country, but all those around them. So I think it's a little bit too hot to say we don't have a clue who they are. I suspect we know exactly who they are. And I think that then it's a matter of policy of this administration to decide what they're going to do about it.
Yeah, just in our last hour, we heard from Dr. Rebecca Grant-Genie, who said that military is looking at these ships as they're being loaded on the docks, and they have a very good sense of the material, where it's coming from, and who is on the boat. I don't know why that means we need to shoot them just off the coast of Venezuela. It takes a long time to get here. We presumably could wait to intercept them as they approached U.S. waters. I think might be part of your point involving the Coast Guard. But I'm curious about the congressional response. The Senate next week is expected to vote on a bill that would bar the U.S. from engaging in hostilities inside Venezuela without the explicit authorization of Congress. Could that even pass?
You know, it's unclear. I think there is a possibility, but it is important that they are taking it up. They are debating this because for too long they have allowed this administration to sort of run roughshod in so many areas. But to the point that Rick was making, number one, it's not an issue of whether we trust the intelligence. What the statistics show us is a quarter of the time that the Coast Guard boards these boats, they are wrong. They have made mistakes, number one. Number two, again, we're a democracy. We don't kill people because they are suspected drug runners. We stop the boat, we board the boat, we take them into custody. Number three, they're 2,000 miles away, so they're not a direct threat to the United States. They have to stop several times in these small boats to get more oil to continue. So much of that doesn't ring true. What does ring true is that the administration, like the Biden administration before, is intent on regime change in Latin America. And we've been there before. It does not bode well or work out well for the United States. But if that is the case and we are intent on regime change, then the administration should be as explicit about that as they were about the fact, or the president was, that the CIA is on the ground engaging in covert operations. So there's a lot here, and history doesn't suggest that these policies are workable for the United States in the long term. If regime change is it, we should know, and the Congress should support any act of war.
We do want to